Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Cranky Frankly podcast. Today, I'm joined with an extremely special guest. I have Abhimanyu with me from all the way in Sweden. If you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Abhimanyu Kumar, and it is a pleasure to be here. How are you, Eshaan?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. It's a busy life, but it's a good life,
Very nice, same.
right? Yeah, today we're going to be discussing studying abroad as a high school student or as a teenager. And we've got quite a lot of points to talk about. Obviously, as I said, Abhimanyu is from Sweden, and I've also lived in Dubai for a good part of my life. And we'll be discussing each and everything. So make sure to stay tuned till the end of the episode, and let's begin.
So, firstly, let me make it very clear. I am not from Sweden. I am Indian. I have spent majority of my life in India. Yes, sure. I have been studying in Sweden for the past 3 years, and it has been a beautiful experience. I'm currently pursuing the IB diploma program, and let me tell you, it is beautiful pursuing the IB diploma program. It is a beautiful course, and I'm loving it up till now.
Right. So yeah, similarly, I am living in India currently, and even I'm an IB student. And of course, in India and even in Sweden, I'm pretty sure they'd have a lot of regional boards or state boards in that sense, or boards that are based off your country. And the IB diploma program is completely different from that sense because you're looking at the element of globalization, right? You're trying to form one international community, and that's something that we're going to be discussing in today's podcast as well. So, right. So let's begin with a pretty simple question. Let's actually understand why would one study abroad? What do you think are the reasons for studying abroad as a teenager?
Okay, so I would say the reasons would be there can be two kinds of reasons. One would be the necessity to study abroad. For instance, your parents might be going to some other country and you have to go there, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes people go to Dubai, sometimes people go to Canada, and their kids, they have to travel with them because there's no place for them to stay in India or anywhere where they're from, right? Another aspect, another would be the other point would be uh, the want or the desire to study abroad, because a lot of students, they look out for exposure. They're always looking out for exposures. One thing I would make very clear in the beginning itself would be that exposure, you can find exposure in your country, you just have to work a bit harder, and you do not always have to go out abroad to become successful in anything. Because if that was the case, then there might have not been any companies in India at all. But India is one of the fastest growing countries ever, and I think it would be a superpower in a few years. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, both of us are pretty close. We've got India in our hearts, so we have to talk good things about our home country, right? And I mean, but even
Absolutely.
even in like a fair perspective, we talk about India as being one of the biggest economies. Of course, that's the US of India. It's the second most populated country, and constantly there's so many businesses starting and growing, and there's just so much going on in India itself that it's just pretty interesting. And I'm pretty sure that someone who's lived their whole life in some other country, they would think that India is probably a great opportunity for them to pursue a career in. So I think India is
Abs-
definitely up there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was recently watching Mr. Ambani's interview, and there he had said that one of his friends had told him that India is a country of a million problems. And then he said that it's not a country of million problems, it's a country of million solutions. And those solutions can be implemented by its own people because they know every aspect of that issue. And I think we need to focus on that rather than just saying, oh, it's a bad country and there are so many problems with it. Problems are there to be fixed. If there are no problems, you cannot grow. So you need to have problems in order to grow as a country, as an individual, or even as a company, for
Right,
instance.
spot on. So, yeah, I guess that is. I mean, coming back to what we are discussing initially, we were trying to think about going to a foreign country as an opportunity, right? And again, not just with India, with any other country, there's going to be something that's going to drive you about that country, right? You've got certain countries that sort of specialize in certain industries, like we've got the Silicon Valley in the United States that is like a whole tech area, and all of the tech geeks dream to visit that area at some time or the other. And again, a lot of these countries have become hubs for certain sectors of education. And right, if you have the opportunity and if you're willing to, spend some money and actually get an opportunity to visit a different country to gain some new experience, I think it's wonderful. And yeah, would you like to quote something from your experiences in Sweden?
Yes, so what I would say is you need to have a purpose behind studying abroad. I think, okay, not everybody wants to go to the United States to earn money. Similarly, not everybody wants to come to Sweden to just chill. Some people think of studying abroad as you would earn a lot of money. Some people might think, oh, you would earn in dollars. That trend which had started in the 2000s, or you're earning in dollars and stuff. Some people might just want to travel. So you need to know the purpose behind you going to another country and studying there. A lot of people, they just want to grow as an individual, and that's why they want exposure from different places. Some people might want to become the CEO of a really big company, and that's why they might go to the United States. Some people just want to enjoy and chill, right? So they might want to travel to a European country where they prefer chilling a lot over stressing themselves. And first, that's the main point. We need to know the purpose behind traveling to another country and studying. Even as a teenager, even as an adult, doesn't matter, but you need to know the purpose. Sure, you might go there to study, but then you need to be sure of what exactly do you want out of it. Do you want to live a luxurious lifestyle? Do you want to chill for the rest of your life or for a few years? Do you want to earn a lot of money, but with that money comes a lot of stress? So you need to have all the pros and cons in mind while studying abroad. So what do you think about this, Ishan?
Absolutely spot on. So, obviously, purpose, all of us have to be purpose driven with any decision we make in life. And obviously, choosing the place where we get education from is a huge decision. And again, it is really a benefit that if you have the opportunity and if you're able to go to a country that's sort of facilitating what you're trying to pursue, like, of course, there's going to be a lot of common examples and stereotypes, like obviously in India there is a trend of so many teenagers or so many engineering students going to the US or trying to get a job placement in the US, probably because they are much more advanced in technologies. And it's just also one additional point is also experiences from others, right? Because since globalization has, it's not like a new thing, right? There's been a lot of people going across borders for a long time, and we can sort of understand why people would go there. And
One thing I would like to add there would be, yes, it has been happening for a long time, but we need to uh, address that the people that have been traveling across the borders were not the same people. They were from the rich community. They were from the high class, or they were
Mhm.
from the higher class of people. And nowadays, even I don't really like to categorize people into high, middle, and then low class. But just to give an aspect to the viewers, even people who are, not that rich or from the middle class or for the poor class, even they are able to travel nowadays, and that is why globalization is happening is happening on a completely different level.
Right, yeah. Yep, globalization has, it's been like most countries would probably aim to be a global economy rather than just an economy on its own, right? An open economy instead of a closed economy. And of course, having students in other countries is beneficial. And one more thing I wanted to quickly add on was so many of uh, these people who try to get education from countries abroad, they're trying to do it for their future. They don't necessarily value it as much as they're currently getting educated than in the next 10 years. When suppose I'm going to the United States, I probably want a job there, I want to settle there, I want to raise a family there. And I feel that's one of the main purposes of people, right? So again, a lot of stereotype and classism plays a role in all of these things, because you're trying to segregate your needs based on what other people think of different countries. So again, we've discussed sort of the reasons why people would move to another country. So let's actually break down some of the key benefits that one would get if they sort of move to a foreign country. So what do you think?
Well, so I think firstly, the most important, the best benefit would be exposure to different cultures. We have over the past few years, we have been like, oh, we are atheists, and that trend which had begun
Mhm.
during the 2016, during 2016 or 17, like teenagers saying, oh, we are atheists, we don't believe in God, God is fake. Well, that is up to them to surely believe that. But one thing they need to keep in mind is that they need to respect the cultures of different countries, of different communities. And I feel cultures have been undermined since the past few years because we have forgotten their importance. And there are a lot of YouTubers, even in India. There's a YouTuber called FitTuber. There are a lot of YouTubers that are actually trying to educate people on the culture that, or
Mhm.
in the society that they're living in, and educating them about the culture that they have been, how should I put it, celebrating, or the culture they have been maintaining since the past 1,000 years. For instance, in India, there are a lot of superstitions, right? There are a lot of superstitions that, let's say, you know, you should not tilt your slippers upside down, otherwise you would become a ghost or something like that. But the
Yeah.
scientific reason behind that would be when you put your slippers upside down, then all the bacteria gets exposed to the air that is above it, and then it can mix up with the air and make you sick. So there are a lot of scientific aspects to it, and I think our predecessors, they have had done a lot of research, and they were a lot smarter than us. That's why, without reasoning a lot, they had actually understood a lot of things. And now, since we have started undermining it, we need to realize that they were not stupid, and they were actually pretty intelligent.
Yeah, so just to quickly add on what you've said, I mean, for sure, like learning about different cultures is definitely beneficial because you're trying to sort of gain more perspectives on the same thing, right? So let's talk about obviously India because it's our home country. We've seen the rise of, stuff like yoga and meditation as one aspect, and also something like Ayurveda or like home remedies of medical illnesses. And obviously in other countries they're not up to the mark compared to India in these sort of aspects. And if one pursues to learn more about, because these things I find them amusing, and I'm sure a lot of people find these things amusing, right? Because people would be very curious to understand how like anthropology may be the answer for something, or how we should leave something to the nature to solve it on its own. And many people might want to understand how people of India are trying to deal with a certain problem as compared to people in the United States, where you've got, privatization, we've got doctors who you have to hire for like $300 for one checkup or something like that. I'm pretty sure the prices are pretty ridiculous out there, but again, we can sort of talk about different cultures over there. And talking about like cultures in that sense, one thing that so many people don't regard is languages. And languages are obviously like communication when you're trying to understand a certain message that we are trying to say to someone else, or we're trying to receive from somebody else. And learning a lot of new languages is almost like a skill, definitely a skill, because learning languages, it requires patience and determination. And once you're sort of understanding a language, you're trying to get used to the surroundings that you're in, right? So let's talk about Abhi itself. Abhi is in Sweden, right? And I'm pretty sure you must have learned a little bit of Swedish while you're in Sweden.
Well, yes, of course, I did learn Swedish, and I have not had a very good experience with learning Swedish because apparently I'm not the best at learning languages. Being completely honest, I suck at learning languages, and okay, I can definitely say that sure, it would be my comfort zone to not learn a new language, but it's just something that's not my go-to, right? I just
Hmm.
cannot I just cannot go ahead and be like, oh, my hobby is learning a new language. Let's go ahead and learn Arabic today. I cannot really do that because that's something which doesn't really uh, interest me as much as something else would.
Mhm.
But I think learning languages, it so basically language is nothing but a form of communication. If you look at our ancestors, they had drawn a lot of stuff on stones and where in the caves that they used to live in. Now you can of course say that those are drawings, but if you see, they are languages. That is a form of language, those drawings. Because a language is, according to me, I would say it's nothing but a form of communication in which you share an idea, or you just share whatever you feel, you express yourself to others. And to express yourself to others, even if you look at computers, for you to express yourself to a computer, you need to learn any programming language that the computer and you can understand, that the
Absolutely.
computer and you can mutually understand, right? For instance, Python. If you just start talking to the computer in English, the computer, of course, it's a non-living thing, but sure, it would of course not understand even if you type it in its programming language. That's why I think language helps you really understand the people of that country. For instance, in India, we uh, highly respect our mothers, we highly respect cows, right? As Nandi Gai and other gods. But in Sweden, they eat cows, so they need there's a difference in culture, and I think language is something which totally helps you understand that culture even more, and it just provides you with more knowledge, and learn and gaining more knowledge is always beneficial. It's nothing that is harmful to you.
Right. Absolutely. So I guess we can sort of, list down some of these benefits. I'm sure all of you guys listening to this would have understood that obviously you're diversifying your own needs and wants. You're trying to meet new people. You're trying to learn their perspectives and their cultures. And one more thing that obviously is quite important is if, for example, you live in a less economically developed country, I'd like to say, a slowly growing country, you may want to move to a country that's rapidly developing or a country that's pretty rich or already developed. And main reason for that, again, we've discussed, to get your future prospects, to make sure that you have some form of security for the future generations, to make sure that there's sustainability. So again, I'm pretty sure all of you guys would understand how that works. And again, just relating to that, okay, I'm quite tired of so many people. They think that studying abroad is just like a way for, like, if I want to move from Bangladesh to say Spain, for example, a random example, but people may think that I'm going there because Spain is a richer economy, so I'll probably be earning more money. But I'm completely against that opinion because for me, I don't think one would, obviously it depends on person to person, but for me, I don't think money would be the biggest factor for determining the country that you want to move into. Obviously, the overall level of economy will play a role, but it's more about, for me, it's more about understanding the culture and trying to settle in a better environment for what you're trying to pursue, right? Let's say I'm going from Bangladesh to Spain to pursue like medicine, for example. It may be possible that Spain is quite developed in the field of medicine. So that should be my main purpose of moving to a country like Spain. Not necessarily that I'm earning in euros and I can transfer it back to my family. I don't think that is, like, that's meant to be the biggest role. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm pretty sure there might be people with different opinions, so we'll just leave it at that. um right, so let's talk about the flip side of the coin. Let's talk about some of the threats that one may have for studying abroad, right? So do you have any experiences or any threats that you'd like to mention for studying abroad?
So fortunately, I have not had any threats or any bad experiences while
Mhm.
studying abroad. I would say thanks to my parents for always being there for me and always supporting me at every step. So I have not had the bad experience of studying abroad. Also, as I said, I'm a high school student, so I don't live here alone. I live with my family, and that is why I have not experienced a lot of scams or anything like that. But yes, of course, even for any student who comes here, or who comes to any other country, who goes to any other country, for the purpose of studying, for the purpose of a job, for the purpose of doing anything, I think you need to keep in mind that you need to be street smart while traveling to any country. Even if you just travel there for travel to that country for even a month or for even a week, you need to be street smart, and you need to understand that every country is not the same. In India, there might not be, for instance, scams where you live, but maybe while you're traveling to any other country, for instance, as you mentioned, Spain, maybe there's a place where you're traveling and you have no idea about, and then you might get scammed there. So you need to know about the country that you're traveling. You cannot just blindly go ahead and just walk on the roads of that country and just say, oh, I'm in that country now, I'm gonna earn in dollars. That cannot happen. It's just a very stereotypical way of thinking. And I would say that scams, yes, they do happen because people think that if you're traveling or if you're new to the country, then you don't know anything about the country. But that's where being street smart comes into play. And if you're street smart and you know, or you have an idea of how that culture or how that environment is, then you might be able to avoid any potential threats at all.
Absolutely. So, yeah, being street smart is utmost important, and a lot of people are probably scared of going to like a foreign country because of some stories they might have heard from friends or anything. But what I would suggest to these people is, at a very basic level, you can just conduct some like very basic research, or just Google it, or find it on some certain websites about a certain place, right? So let's say I want to study in a university in the United States. Obviously, I'm not going to make the decision instantly, right? I'm going to take some time to research about firstly the program or whatever, but also the country itself, and what part of the country am I going to be living in, and is there going to be a community where I can sort of settle into instead of just directly meeting the local people there. And again, I think that also plays a role, right? Because so many times people move to other countries because they know that there's going to be a certain community, their own community being represented in that country, right? So again, going back to my classic example of engineers from India going to the United States, we've sort of known for like the past 10, 15 years maybe, that there's been so many engineers traveling from India to the United States for jobs. And that sort of gives us a little bit of security that, okay, we're not going to be the first people going there, just on a random expedition, right? We've seen people, we might have connections over there, and it'll probably be a safer bet to, have people who have the same culture or have the same upbringing as you, instead of just completely mixing up with the local people. So I think that's a suggestion that I'd like to give. Just conduct some basic research, try to find people who can sort of help you out with this kind of stuff. And you can even ask people who've already been there and their experiences. I think that'll help you sort of avoid scams. Because if I have to give you like a quick small story, I went to Thailand for a quick holiday, and I'd already known uh, from, it's a pretty random place. I learned from YouTube. I followed a famous blogger who went there and sort of described his trip. And he also mentioned a certain scam that happened with him specifically was, obviously, if you're going to a foreign country, you're trying to exchange your currency, which is basically if I went to the United States, I'd want to get my rupees converted into dollars so I can spend
Hmm.
my dollars in the United States. And similarly, if you're exchanging your currency, sometimes they might just not give you the fair amount of money, right? They just keep some money for themselves because that's how scams work, unfortunately. And I was sort of aware of these scams, so we sort of made sure that we're being treated fairly and it's everything's up to the mark instead of just being scammy. So again, just very basic. I found it from a YouTube video. You can just, if you really want to pursue a future in a certain country, it's very important to conduct some research about that area before moving into that.
I would say scams. They also play. Okay, so I would say scams are really fun. If you're the victim, sure, initially you will be like, oh, something bad has happened. I lost, I don't know, 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees. But you know, that experience, it stays with you. Sure. Okay, looking at the opposite side of the
Mhm.
scenario that you just told me, I would say that if that guy would have never had scammed, would if someone would have never scammed him, right? Then he would
Mhm.
have never uploaded that video. If you would have never uploaded that scam video of his, right? Then you would have never known. So I
Mhm.
think even scams, they educate you. As it said that you cannot always have the best things with you in life. You need to experience bad things in order to uh, develop and in order to grow stronger. Otherwise, you'll just be in your comfort zone all the time. Because if you look at it, then being happy all the time, it's also a comfort zone. Because being happy, who doesn't want to be happy, right? And if you're not happy, then you're learning, and when you're not learning, well, then you're not growing. So you need to experience those bad situations, or those terrible situations, in order to grow as a person and just educate yourself even more.
Right, right. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, one more thing that so many people are also scared of is like a mismatch in cultures and beliefs and values. And like a few minutes ago, you'd mentioned about Indians, they sort of uh, worship cows in some sense, and they refuse to eat cows or refuse to eat beef. And it's completely normal in European or American or any other country, right? And
Yeah.
adapting to that may take some time for people who have been, rooted down to the same values for a couple of years themselves, and obviously decades and centuries, considering their ancestors, and to sort of make that transition from being an Indian to an American, or for an American even to be an Indian, will take some time. And I think that's sort of a threat that it takes a lot of flexibility to actually be involved with people who have completely different upbringings and different cultures and different practices as compared to you. So you may need to be able to adapt to certain cultures. I'm not saying that you shouldn't like follow your culture anymore, or you shouldn't listen to what you should be listening to. I'm not asking you to change your habits in that sense, but it takes time. And again, the decision is completely on you, right? If you're going to a country, it's your call if you want to go away from your culture or do something what's that's not what that's not right for culture, or do something that's right for culture. It's a bit of a gray area, I guess. We can't really pin it down to one thing. So I'd say that's not a great thing of moving abroad. You may have some problems with that. And one small little thing I wanted to ask you was,
Yeah.
let's say I just give you the name of a country and I don't give you any specific information about it. Do you think your experiences and the stereotypes and all of the shared information with you, do you think that will play a role in sort of judging the country instead of actually conducting some research?
Yes, absolutely, it would. One stereotype, for instance, if we take Canada as an example, there's a stereotype that a lot of that every Punjabi boy goes there. Sure, a lot of stand-up comedians, they have used this joke a lot of times, and yes, there are a lot of Punjabis that do go there, right? But it doesn't mean that every Punjabi goes there, right? So it's just that, sure, they like it and they go there because they find their comfort zone there, they find their community there, they find that sense of belonging there, and that is why they go there. But it doesn't mean that if you throw a stone and it hits a random person, that person would be a Punjabi. No, no, that just does not happen. So I would say the name, the name of a country, it depends on the country you belong to. For instance, when I came to my country, in my school, ev- most of the people, they would say, "We know your country because of tech scammers." They know my country because of tech scammers because they're not properly educated about my country. All because watching YouTube videos about tech scammers would of course tell them that there are tech scammers. Similarly, if you just educate yourself based on the rural areas of India, and then you would just look at those. If you search Indian people, you might see people from the villages. Sure, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but then again, there's a completely different side to it. The rich people, they are just incredibly rich. So we need to keep that in mind as well. So so there are a lot of prejudices about every country. For instance, we might think that in USA, everybody is smart because, well, it's an incredibly developed country, and that is not a fact. Everybody is not smart in a developed country. Yes, sure, there are a lot of companies that are highly valued and highly regarded, but it doesn't mean that everybody is smart in that particular country. And it doesn't mean that everybody in India is a tech scammer. So we need to keep that in mind while looking at a country. But yes, of course, due to the information that we have been getting, we do predetermine that, oh, this country might be bad or this country might be good. A lot of people might say Nepal is not a very nice country to be in. But if you look at the spiritual aspect to it, it is a beautiful country to be there, to be in if you want to grow spiritually. It is a beautiful in India. If you want to grow spiritually, it is a beautiful place to be in. You can go to Himalayas, you can travel to a lot of monasteries, and you can stay there. And a lot of Western or a lot of Europeans, a lot of people from the West, they do travel to India because they want to learn more. But it's completely ironic because the people living in India disregard it, and the people living outside of it, they regard it highly. So we need to there's this sort of imbalance that we need to cover up.
Mhm.
And of course we cannot find a reliable solution to cover it up. But the the best we can do as of now would be to just learn about a country. Because what I've started doing is anything that I look at. So for instance, if I am just walking and this guy just he's just rude, right? So I don't look at it as, oh, he's a stupid man, or like I don't get mad at him, right? What I try to think of it as, I try to think of that man from two different aspects. So one would be, yes, of course, this guy is rude and he's stupid and stuff like that. He has, I don't know, no life or something like that. On the other hand, you can look at it. Maybe he has experienced something very terrible. Maybe, for instance, maybe his son just had a car accident, and that's why he's super frustrated. So you need to keep that in mind. Even if in your own life, if you look at yourself, if you uh, thoroughly analyze yourself while you're mad, perhaps you're rude to some other person, then I would say you should realize that even in your own life you're frustrated because of that particular instance which occurred, and you're not really mad, or you're not that that kind of a person who is rude to others, but due to that particular situation you have been rude. And that is what we need to keep in mind while looking at countries at the same time, that a country has a lot of different aspects. It's people. There's a particular reason why people are nationalistic about that country. We are nationalistic about our country because we know how developing it is, how beautiful our country is. And there are a lot of ancient, how should I put it, ancient literature that can teach us a lot about our country, but we have not yet discovered it.
Mhm.
So we need to look at a specific country from all of the aspects in order to form a well established opinion on it. We cannot just say India has tech scammers, so every Indian is a tech scammer. We cannot say that, right? Of course, a lot of people, they do that, and they still will be doing that even after they watch this podcast, or even after they have been educated in that way. They still will do it. But the best we can do is change ourselves. You cannot change the person right next to you. You cannot change the person in your family. You cannot change your best friend. All you can do is change yourself, and that is a message that I would like to give, would be changing yourself.
Wow.
Stop changing others, first change yourself, and then focus on changing others.
Wow, that's kind of inspiring. But yeah, I guess you've summed it up pretty well. Again, emotions play a huge role in how you're trying to. If you're talking to someone who you've never met before, if you're having sort of positive emotions, if you're happy, you'll probably like say sorry if you crash into them or something. But again, if you've witnessed something unfortunate, it'll be pretty bad experience. You'll probably shoo them off or something.
I
So
would say
the
I would say life is the best teacher, and I've heard this 1,000 times, and I would still say it in this podcast. Life is the best teachers, and I would say life. We are generalizing life, right? What we need to say is bad experiences, terrible experiences are the best teachers, because what they teach you is, they teach you something that you have never learned before. You can be as happy as maybe your friend who has scored an A on a math test is, right? But
Mhm.
you will just experience that release of dopamine. But when you're experiencing something bad, when you're experiencing an E in your math test, then you will realize that how how you will realize how you feel when you receive an E. But your friend will never realize because he has always been receiving an A. And later on in life, when your friend fails, he might not even be able to take charge of that situation. He might just run away because he has always experienced getting A's in life. But you, on the other hand, since you received an E, you will be all right with handling those situations. If we take, for example, me, I was terrible at maths. What I used to score was 2 out of 100. So my math score was terrible,
Wow.
right? I recently improved on maths a lot, but yes, my math score was very terrible. And once my friend, he was extremely good at maths. He scored how much? 85%. Whereas I just scored 70%. I was so happy because yeah, I scored 70%. My friend was like, he's crying over it. He's like, oh, I should have not scored 85%. My parents would be mad at me. Your
Yeah.
parents would be mad
Yeah.
at you because they always expect you to score an A, right? But you need to be very clear of yourself, and you need to really understand that scoring A's in every test would not benefit you in any way. Sure, it might be very good to see on your report card. You might get accepted to Stanford, Harvard, but later on in life, Stanford and Harvard will not do anything for you. You will have to do it for yourself. And that is why I would like to make this point really clear in the first place, that if you see, there are a lot of people that are from tier 3 colleges in India, and they have been joining a tremendous amount of good companies. For instance, you might have heard of this software engineer called Love Bubber. He even has a YouTube channel, got like 80,000 subscribers, or I'm not sure, like 2 lakh subscribers. But he has a lot of subscribers. He even collaborated with Ahmed Dattarwal, and he is not from IIT. He's not even from a tier 2 college, and he still got into Amazon as a software engineer as soon as he graduated. And he has explained his entire journey. So that is what we need to keep in mind. That is what I would say, that, you know, be getting A's, getting into Harvard, getting into Stanford will not guarantee. As you said, you might want to travel to some other country because of the future prospects. You might want to settle in a developed
Mm.
country, but then again, you need to look at it from a completely different point of view. Whereas you might, okay, God forbid, but you might, even, I don't know, your company might crash or something might happen, and you might have to travel back to your country. Now if you hate that country, and it's a necessity for you to live in that country, then it will be really hard for you to survive there. But on the other hand, if you have just looked at your country and be like, it's a great country, I want to educate myself more, I want to expose myself to new opportunities, then I think it would be far easier for you to just handle the situation easily, and you can just go back to the country where you lived, and continue living your life the way you want it to be.
Wow. Yeah. So quite motivating, I guess. Quite inspiring for me to listen to, and hopefully for you guys too. And again, just like we're probably gonna wrap up the podcast for today, but the last sort of message that I want to give to the viewers is, even if you're not fortunate enough to get an opportunity to study abroad as a teenager or as a college student or something, just try to make the best of the opportunities that you have at the moment, right? Even if I'm not able to go from Mumbai to, let's say, uh, Cambridge in the UK, for example, I'll probably want to do the best I can in Mumbai, right? So I'll probably try to improve what I can do with the resources available in Mumbai. And it's not like whatever opportunities that you may have in any country possible, you'll still have a lot of good things about it that you would know that so many other people would not know about if you've lived there for a long enough time. And it's all about understanding what you're good at and trying to make the best of what you're trying to do. So with that note, I guess we can end today's podcast. And it was really entertaining to have you on board for this episode. Hopefully, the viewers also had a good time. Let us know in the comment section down below. And yeah, anything else you want to add before we can shut it down?
Yeah, so basically what I would say would be, maybe you living in Mumbai, uh, it might be a dream for someone living in Nepal, right? And if you look at on the contradictory side of it, you can say, goals, they never end, and that's the best part about goals. So right now you might want to go from Mumbai to Cambridge. Later on, from Cambridge, you might want to travel to moon, who knows, right? So you might want to, every time you have a goal that is higher than what you have achieved as of now. Right now, let's take an example of cars. Right now you have BMW 5 Series. You might want the Mercedes S Class later on. After that Mercedes S Class, you might want a Lamborghini. After that Lamborghini, you might want a Bugatti. And there might be new companies that are producing even more expensive
Spaceships.
cars than that. Exactly. You might want spaceships, and then you might want the entire universe. So your goals never end, and you need to settle with what you already have. Sure, you should always hustle and strive for more, but you need to have that point where you can say that, yes, I don't need more, and I already have enough. All I want to do is serve humanity, and that is what a lot of uh, the rich CEOs, a lot of successful CEOs have done. Because earlier they had goals of, oh, I will be the CEO of this company. Now they're the CEOs of that company, and they realize that, all right, it was great experiencing this. Now I
Yeah.
don't want to be the CEO of another company, because I already am the CEO of this company and I'm living a good lifestyle. What can I do now? And then they start serving the mankind. I would say, sure, try for goals, but also make sure that you're helping others at the same time and not just focusing on yourself individually. But yes, of course, in every aspect there is a selfish motive behind it.
Yep.
As Ishan said, just be grateful for what you have. Don't think to low off yourself. Don't think that if I'm not getting an opportunity to travel to the US, then I am nothing. Trust me, you can get a lot of opportunities wherever you live. There are, issues, they can be solved, and if you solve even one of those issues, you might even become a better person than you were 5 years ago, or you might have been even if you would have traveled to some other country. So be aware of that, and as Sam said, just be happy and be grateful for what you have.
Yep. So the last sentence I'm going to say in this podcast is probably don't compare yourself to others, but compare yourself to with yourself and try to be a better person. So yeah, I guess you've shared plenty of knowledge. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed listening to this podcast. And yeah, please make sure to subscribe to Abhi's YouTube channel as well. It's you want to
The
plug it
Simple
yourself?
Convo Show. Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, guys, I'm the founder of the Simple Convo Show. It's a similar podcast show, and I have had a lot of podcasts, and I hope you will enjoy watching them. It was great being at the Frankie Frankly Show. I'm very thankful to be here, and thank you,
For sure.
Eshaan, for having me.
So yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
watching. We'll see you guys next week.